Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to go into the third of the three Shamatha practices that we're focusing on in this retreat. So the first of those, of course, was to focus on the breath, various variations of the breath practice. Yesterday we looked at observing the mind as the object, and today we're going to simply rest in the experience of awareness. Sometimes this is called Shamatha with no object, and it's because it's more about being than doing. So what I'd like to do is first begin with a meditation of observing the mind as we did yesterday, and then towards the end of that meditation we'll move into the practice of simply resting in awareness, so just so that we can get a little bit of a taste of it first, so that when I then describe the practice we hopefully know a little bit more about what the practice is. So let's do that meditation first. As an act of loving kindness for yourself, allow your awareness to descend into the body, simply becoming aware of sensations throughout the body. And using the out breath to relax and release any tightness or tension in any part of the body. And this way allowing the entire body to become completely relaxed. allowing the breathing to settle into its natural rhythm. And setting the mind in a state of ease and relaxation. Simply allowing it to come to rest in the present moment. And simply noticing the rhythm of your breath. Noticing if it's long or short, deep or shallow, regular or irregular, without trying to modify it in any way. Simply noticing the rhythm of the breath. Now allowing the eyes to be at least partially open, resting your gaze in the space in front of you, keeping the eyes soft and relaxed. And now bring your attention to your own mind, observing the mind and whatever is arising in the mind. Without following thoughts, without trying to get rid of them. Simply be like an impartial observer or witness, observing thoughts and other mental events as they arise and pass. In particular, paying close attention to any emotions arising in the mind and any reactions to anything pleasant or unpleasant that appears in the mind. Now shift your attention from the foreground to the background. So now instead of focusing on the thoughts, focus on the mind itself. Focus on the space of the mind where thoughts arise, abide, and cease. So now simply focus on that space, on that stillness.
Now let go of even focusing on the space of the mind and simply release all appearances and allow the mind to come to rest. Not doing anything at all. Simply be present. Knowing that you're aware. All sorts of appearances will continue to arise. Thoughts, emotions, sounds, sensations. But now pay no attention to any appearance. Simply let them be there. They can be there. We're just not interested in them. The only thing we're interested in now is knowing that we're aware.
before we move into today's practice of resting in awareness, let's review a few things we've covered already. So we're mainly engaging in the Shamatha practice in this retreat, the practice of cultivating a calm, clear and focused mind. And the general recommendation for this practice is use the object that works best for you. But we also saw that in Alan Wals's attention revolution, he also proposed another strategy, and so I'd like to go through that again, which we covered, I think, yesterday. On page 6 he says, to guide meditators along these 10 stages, and the 10 stages are the stages we see in the Shamatha chart here, the 9 stages plus the result of Shamatha. I have chosen from Buddhist teachings 3 techniques that I have found to be effective for people in the modern world. These 3 techniques are the basis of the 3 divisions of this book. For the first 4 stages, you should practice whatever method you find easiest. By stage 5, the mind is relatively stable and you can move on to subtler techniques. For achieving the first 4 stages, I recommend the practice of mindfulness of breathing, variations of which can be found in Zen, Vipassana and Tibetan Buddhism. Mindfulness of breathing means settling your awareness on the respirations involved in breathing, continually returning your attention there whenever your mind wanders. Beginning with the 5th stage, I recommend a method called settling the mind in its natural state, which is the practice we did yesterday. In this technique, you direct your attention to the mental experiences, i.e. thoughts, mental images, emotions, that arise in the domain of the mind. This method is drawn from the Dzogchen or Great Perfection lineage, but is found in other Buddhist traditions as well. For the instructions for the 8th attentional stage onward, we move on to the still subtler practice of maintaining awareness of awareness itself. So this is today's practice. The technique is called Shamatha without an object. Here the practice is not so much one of developing attentional and stability and clarity as it is of discovering the stillness and luminosity inherent in awareness itself. The training in mindfulness of breathing may be helpful to anyone, including those seeking to prevent or treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorders. Many people find the second practice, that of settling the mind in its natural state, to be more challenging, but some meditators take to it naturally. Likewise, the practice of awareness is subtler still, but it may be optimal from the beginning for those who are strongly drawn to it. You may use any one of the 3 methods to progress along all 10 stages of attentional development, or you may follow the sequence described in this book. How fast you progress will depend on the level of your commitment and the degree to which your lifestyle and environment support such practice. So again, the first object we used was the breath, and there we introduced actually 4 variations of the practice. First, the full body breath practice, good for relaxation. Then the abdomen, particularly good for improving stability. Then we moved to the nostrils, particularly good for improving clarity of attention. And then we introduced the rhythm of the breath. So the rhythm of the breath is also very good for relaxation, and also it can be very good as an anchor for yesterday's practice of observing the mind, and also today we can use it as an anchor for this practice to help us to get into this practice as well, and I'll explain more about that later. In the second object we used, it was the mind yesterday. Observe the mind and any mental events arising in the mind. Many of you probably found that more challenging than using the breath, but some people actually take to it very well, and they actually much prefer that practice than focusing on the breath. Now, in how do we know we are progressing in the Shamatha practice is we are going to start to look at that tomorrow evening when we look at this 9-stage model. So remember the word shamatha can be divided into two. Shama means calm, a mind that is not discursive, a calm mind, and ta means to remain or abide.